So there I was, moving the rest of the boxes from the boot of my SUV into my new apartment, when I first glanced at a woman standing at my bedroom window. She appeared transparent, an unsubstantial fog behind the glass. I blinked, and she was gone. I blamed it on my nerves, as it could be a little unsettling moving into a new home. It's not that I'm a psychic or anything. I know there are things out there we humans still don't understand, about the unknown and the unseen. Perhaps it was a ghost, as I've seen plenty of them over the years. But something felt different about this occasion. As a cold chill rose through my core, the box in my hand trembled. Do you ever wish that you had listened to your instincts? You know, that gut punch that warns you something isn't right. It shivered right through me, but I brushed it off, as you do. There was no going back, and nothing to go back to anyway. This would be my new beginning, a fresh start, if you will, away from pushy parents and abusive ex-boyfriend. After slamming the boot shut, and with the last box in my hand, wrestling with a bag of groceries, I entered my new abode. When I found this apartment on the realtor's website, I paid the deposit immediately, because rental properties are fairly hard to find in the CBD. I was fortunate that this one had become available. The photographs show of a small, tiny flat with a good-sized bathroom and even included a bathtub. The only bedroom was sunny and bright, boasting a walk-in wardrobe. Although the decor was a little outdated, I was happy with that, and the fact that it came fully furnished was a bonus. The complex itself appeared to be well maintained and the apartments identical to each other. There's a staircase at either end of the building, so the terraces leading to the flats overlook a large front garden with a small pool. I was surprised. It was a lot cheaper than some of the other properties I had searched for online. I signed the contract. Done deal. It had been a full-on day, unpacking boxes and rearranging existing furniture. Exhaustion overcame me. Desperate for sleep, I climbed into bed and closed my eyes. That is when I first heard the scratching sounds coming from within the walls. I jumped out of bed in fright, flicked on the light switch, but for some reason it didn't work. I tried again, to no avail. I followed the scratching around the darkness, believing it was rats or some other rodents making their homes inside my walls. I remember thinking there might be an infestation. Perhaps that explained the cheap rent? I gave up and tried to sleep, slightly confused and a little disturbed. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. Not yet. My brain said it was rats. Somehow, I dozed off to sleep. I looked down at my feet. The rats were eating my toes. I woke up with a scream lodged in my throat. I tossed and turned in a discombobulated state of slumber. So, my first night sleeping in my new flat was fractured. The persistent scratching continued for a week or so, until they turned into little knocks and taps all over the house, inside the cupboards, wardrobe, the walls, and the internal doors. It continued for weeks on end. I couldn't sleep. My appetite was completely obsolete, and I couldn't tell the last time I had a shower. Then the knocking and tapping suddenly stopped one night. The silence was wonderful. However, I could feel high tension and pressure building, like it does right before a storm. Then I started to notice that items were disappearing, or being moved around my flat. It really started to bother me and grate on my nerves. I started to believe that someone was getting into the apartment somehow, and was intentionally moving things around. I didn't take it any further. In fact, I had no idea what to do about it, so logically, I tried to ignore it. In my scared state of mind, I decided to talk to the neighbours. I had been here for weeks and hadn't come across anyone. I knocked upon every door in the complex, but no one answered. Thinking everyone was at work, I went back to my flat and, well, it all turned to shit after that. The shadows came. They followed me everywhere, and each time I tried to see them face on, they would disappear. I was petrified. I started to think I was going crazy. They stopped hiding after some time. I would see them in the hallway, glance them in the mirrors, and most frightening of all, they would be in plain view. watching me. One night I woke to find someone standing at the foot of my bed. In fright, I turned on the bedside lamp, but the figure had gone. When they started moving furniture, opening and shutting cupboards, slamming and closed the internal doors, I knew I was out of my depth. But there was no one to tell. My cell phone was dead and I couldn't find my charger. So there wasn't a chance for me to call anyone for help. One morning, I woke to find the table stacked with items from the pantry. The cans were piled on top of one another, almost reaching the ceiling. The glasses, cups and crockery from the cupboards were also stacked and precariously in the same way. As I stood in the doorway, confused and scared, I heard banging at the front door. When I went to answer it, a little old lady was standing there being sprinkled with raindrops. "Hello?" "Yes, hello dear. Isn't it a beautiful day?" said the strange woman in a quiet, gentle voice. We stood there for a moment, staring each other down. Her eyes were as black as coal. I was holding the door between us as a glacier shiver made its way down my spine. If this lady was a door knocker trying to sell me something, we were off to an awkward start. Her silence became alarming and ominous. I had a horrid feeling that there was something not quite right with this person. "Can I help you?" "Well, dear, that is the $1,000,000 question." Confused, I continued. "Are you looking for someone? I have only recently moved in and I don't know any of the neighbours." "That's nice, dear. No, I'm not looking for anyone. I'm looking for you." Suddenly, her face changed. She was no longer quiet and old. She looked menacing. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head as she inched her way closer towards me. "Let me in, dear. I have something for you." My reptilian brain was triggered, so I slammed the door shut in her face. In a state of utter shock, I fell backwards, terrified. I watched her slam her forehead into the glass panel on the door, over and over again. I scrambled back in the dining room, only to discover all the items that had gone from the table. I rushed around searching through the cupboards and pantry. Everything was back to their rightful place. After some time, her insistent knocking at the door had stopped. By that stage, I'd had enough, so I grabbed my keys, wallet and cell phone, thinking I would charge it in the car. I walked to the lounge room and peeked out the window, hiding myself behind the curtain. The old woman was gone. Again, while standing at the front door, I was baffled. The blood from the old lady's head was no longer on the glass. Snapping out of it, I ran through the door, closing it behind me. I started to make my way down the staircase to the car park. My flat was on the second floor. When I finally got to the bottom, strangely, the staircase didn't stop. They kept going down. I didn't have time to ponder this. I just kept running down the stairs. It was all in vain. Every time I thought I'd made it to the bottom, I would end up back in front of my apartment, number 23. After a while of doing this and, well, getting nowhere, I was shattered. So I went inside, sunk down on the couch and cried. Giant sobs engulfed me. I remember thinking I was stuck there forever, that it was hopeless. There was no escaping that hellhole of a building. I tried to leave every single day for weeks. It became habitual. The same thing happened over and over and over again. The staircase had no ending, and the knocking, the scratching, and the furniture moving around the rooms had increased. The shadows, they were blacker than the eternal blackness. One cold night, the power went out, plunging me into sudden terrifying darkness. I found some candles and a box of matches in the kitchen drawer, but soon enough, they all burned down to nothing. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. It felt like I was stuck in this flat for years. Now and then a new person would arrive, begging me to let them in. Around and around, my life went on. My days got twisted, every day blurring into the next. I had lost all concept of time. Then, one day I woke to find people in my flat. I could hear their muffled talk through the walls. I hadn't heard voices in such a long time. It startled me. They slowly walked around, assessing the flat, walking room to room. I didn't know who they were or even why they were in my apartment, but they scared me, so I went into the bathroom to remain hidden. After a while, Curiosity got the better of me, so I started to follow them around. When I entered the lounge room, a loud alarm screamed at me. On top of the alarm, a glaring bright white light glared at me. I ran from the room and hid under my bed. Is someone here with us? Please come and talk to us. If you come near one of these devices, we'll be able to hear you. Silence. Can you make a noise? Just so we know where you are. I decided I would, because I hadn't spoken to anyone for God knows how long. It had felt like years and years. I knocked on one of the walls in the hallway. They all came running. There were 3 people, a woman and 2 men. Due to my instinctual fear of men, I tried to stay as far away from them as possible. But they stalked me through the apartment. Who's here with us? What is your name? With the small amount of energy I had. Elizabeth. Hearing my voice come out of the little box she was holding intrigued me. How long have you been here, Elizabeth? Can I call you that, or would you prefer to be called Liz or Beth? I always hated the name Elizabeth. It made me feel old. Beth. Once again, I was enthralled by the box that said my words. Although I was enthralled, I became upset. These people were intruding in my home. I still had no idea why they were here. How the hell did they get inside? Suddenly, a loud beeping sound screamed from one of the devices. The lights on it flickered from green to red. Again, I was mesmerized and somewhat excited by this. Wow, she's right here in front of us. Keep going, Michelle. She seems to want to speak to you. Yeah, after what had happened to her, that doesn't surprise me. Hearing those words, a memory entered my mind. There was a man inside my apartment. He had done something horrendous to me. The memory dissipated when the woman's voice broke through the silence. Beth, how long have you been here? My energy was draining fast. I couldn't answer. If you need to, use the battery from our flashlights or devices to get some energy. I did so. 10 years. Beth, my name is John. Do you know you are dead? I was beyond anger, and something fierce was building inside of me. Get out! Who killed you, Beth? I didn't want to say, but I did. Simon. It's really her. She knows who did it. Simon Class. Hearing his name made me angry, feeding my energy, so I threw a broken bowl across the room. They all jumped up from the mouldy, dilapidated couches in fright. Suddenly, in the middle of the room, looking around, confused and clearly startled, the tall man with the beard picked up a device with a bright light and small TV screen attached to it. I'd never seen anything like it before. I was curious, so I wandered over to get a better look. I scrambled away when the lady started to talk again. You can show yourself on the device in Tony's hand. It's called an SLS camera, and we can see you if you stand in front of it. It didn't make any sense to me. None of this did. But I decided to play along. I stood on top of the bookshelf in the lounge. Although it was broken, I still managed to do it. There she is, look. She's on the shelf. Hearing this, I darted away, making loud noises as I stomped along the hallway, knocking on the walls, kicking the doors. I was about to try to smash the already cracked mirror when I was rudely interrupted. Did you hear that? I slammed the bathroom door shut, hoping to scare them out. Get out! Leave! I yelled as I shoved the woman, nearly knocking her over. What the hell? Something just pushed me and the device is going nuts. Look at the REM pod. She must be touching it. The K2 meter is spiking too. Directing her words to me. Beth, we are here to help you. We can free you from here. You don't have to stay here any longer. I didn't trust them. Hell, I didn't even know their real intentions. I remember thinking perhaps they could help me leave the building for good. So I hovered around them, waiting to see what they would do next. Beth, I feel you are still mad about what happened to you. What he did to you was absolutely terrible. But he is no longer here. He is dead now. Then I remembered. I was struggling with the last of my gear from the car when a man approached me and asked if he could help. I noticed he came from the flat beneath mine. I gladly accepted. He took a heavy box from me. I carried the groceries and together we entered my apartment. Where should I put this box? Just in the bedroom on the bed, please. That would be great. As I fluffed around the kitchen, packing away the shopping, I noticed he still hadn't come out of my bedroom, so I went looking for him. When I entered, he was standing in my closet, going through what little clothes I had hung up. "What are you doing?" He jumped in fright. "Nothing. Just wondering if your wardrobe was the same as mine." I didn't believe him. After all, he had a pair of my stockings wrapped around his hands. This confused me to no end, raising goosebumps upon my skin. Instinctively, I recognized there was danger. I didn't want to inflame the situation, so I laughed, not wanting him to see how scared I actually was at the moment. "Thank you for your help. How rude of me. I didn't even ask your name." "Simon Class. Lovely to meet you. Are you sure I can't help you unpack? 4 hands are better than two." "I'm good, thank you. I will let you get on with your day. Thanks heaps for your help, Simon." I tried to gently push him towards the door. Suddenly, he grabbed me with my own stocking. He began to strangle me. I tried and tried to get away, but he was way too strong. He began to do other things to me. I wish I could erase forever. After that, I watched him as he set the apartment building on fire. When they found my remains, I stood there crying. It wasn't fair, my life ending like that. I snapped out of the reverie when the woman started talking again. "Beth, if you need help to leave, please knock on the wall or make some sort of sound." I had no energy left, so I drained the battery from one of the cameras. "What the? The battery on my camera just went flat. I just changed it. She must be using it for energy." With all the remaining strength I had, I screamed through the device. "Help me!" "We will." I watched as they walked from room to room, splashing water on the damaged walls. I could hear them praying as they languished in my room, spreading smoke from a bunch of sticks they held in their hands. The woman made a sign of a cross in every doorway, banishing any spirits who weren't supposed to be there. One of them splashed water on all the smashed windows and the ruined floorboards in every room. Michelle stood at the front door. "I am opening the doorway. Follow the light, Beth. You will find peace there. You can move on if that's what you want. Just follow the light, and at the end, you will be free." I trusted her, so I moved slowly over to the front door. As they stood in the hallway watching on their devices, I saw the light, so I followed it to the end of the tunnel, not knowing what to expect. I could see someone walking towards me. She seemed very familiar. "Hello, my darling Beth. You made it. Come with me, sweetheart, and I will take you home." I hadn't heard my mother's sweet voice for over 20 years. When finally I melted in her arms, the tears fell hard. She held my hand as we walked away from the old, abandoned apartment complex. I was finally free from the hell I had been living, roaming in the place where I'd been murdered, trying to escape. I didn't even know I was dead.